We've all seen the Need for Speed Unbound car list, and I think it's safe to say it needs a little bit more work. Unfortunately, based on what the dev team has said in the recent Volume 7 feedback post, video of that is in the description by the way, it looks like the only cars that will be added are the cars that they've already had on the list for probably a couple years at this point. And yes, I do understand that vehicles require a lot of money and time to properly lease the names and likeness of each car for a racing-centered video game, right? And this video is not to discredit what the team at Criterion has done. The amount of cars that we have in the game now is good, but not great. It's enough variety, except Porsche, which has 20 million cars, to have options to drive around in, but compared to other games such as Forza, the Crew Motorfest, and Gran Turismo, which are debatably Need for Speed's greatest rivals, they are severely lacking. In today's video, we are going to go over a few cars I think should be in the next game releasing most likely next year. Assuming that the next Need for Speed will have the same class tier system for cars, I'll also be putting the cars in the tier I think they would fit nicely in. Obviously, because these cars are not in the game, a few cars and clips will be taken from other games such as Forza, Motorfest, and GT7. The first car on the list is the Pagani brand. The Utopia, the Zonda F, the Zonda R, and the Scenic. We have one Pagani in the entire game. To put that in perspective, we have 16 Porsches, 14 Lamborghinis, and 16 BMWs. The fact we still only have one Pagani after almost 2 years of this game's life cycle is nothing short of insane. There are so many models of the Pagani that could be used, and it's disappointing that we only have one that is actually being used. If different models were to be added, I think that each model except for the Zonda R should start in S and be able to go up to S Plus and rival other S Plus cars. These are hypercars and should be treated as such. Each one of them can go over 200 miles per hour and have over 600 horsepower. I think S and S Plus would be nice for them and practical in order to actually use the car at its best. However, for the Zonda R, because it is a racing variant, I'm slightly leaning towards it being an S Plus or whatever the top class is for the next Need for Speed game. I would put it in the league of the Regera and the new Lotus as well, allowing it to actually compete with them, upgraded of course. It would also add more variety with the one brand and allow racers to choose which Pagani they would like as opposed to just the one we have now. With more cars comes more customization and a more enjoyable racing experience in general. The next brand is Ferrari. There are a few Ferraris in the game, a lot more than Paganis anyway, and that is a great thing. We can choose to drive 200 miles per hour in more than one or two multi-million-dollar cars, right? So that's really good. However, I think that the addition of a few other cars could make the variety and selection even better. These cars include the F40 Competition, the F50, the SF90, and the Ferrari GTO. Another car I was thinking about was the older Testarossa, the one made in 1957, but we already have a pretty nice Testarossa anyway, so I think it'll be fine. For each one of the Ferraris, except for the F40 Competition, I think they should start in A+ and be able to move up to S and S+, but not go down to A, as we would have yet another Beasta situation on our hands. If you know, then you know. The F40 Competition would be in S and could be raised to S+ and not lowered to A. I know that the mechanic to do that in the game already exists, but in my opinion, a race car should be in a race class, not in a lower class. Each one of these Ferraris would bring more variety into the game, yes, but to have different versions such as the F40 and the F40 Competition would definitely be a great addition that car enthusiasts would truly enjoy. The F50 included with that. As for the SF90, many people felt this car was missing from launch and should have already been in the game. Hopefully, in the next Need for Speed, we will see this car, especially, but the team needs to get started on it immediately. Ferrari, I don't know what that deal is in order to get licenses and things like that, but I believe that Need for Speed is the only racing game that does not have the SF90. I know that the Crew Motorfest has it. I know that Forza has it. GT7, I'm not too familiar, but I'm pretty sure they have it as well. We want it on release, not in a speed pass behind a premium price. After that, we have Tesla. Yes, I can already hear the groans and complaining, but hear me out. Nobody can convince me that the Need for Speed community does not want to drive a 1200 horsepower instant torque electric car at 200 miles per hour down a straightaway highway in a racing game. I know you guys want to hear engines. That's why there are 900 plus other cars in any other racing game that have that. To prove my point even more, the Lotus is electric and it just came out and the community loves it. Just because it has Tesla on it and doesn't have an engine doesn't mean it wouldn't be fun, and the lack of electric cars in the game is kind of crazy. Especially since electric cars typically have the most insane power numbers included with them. The new Lotus is insane. There is a new electric car from Polestar that is twin charged, aka meaning a supercharger and a turbocharger. The Taycan is still a fan favorite, and the icing on top would be to have a Tesla section. A few cars, not even 10 or 20 like Porsche, but I think it would definitely be possible. For the Cybertruck, I would put it in A-class, which may seem crazy, but this thing is a tank regardless of the power. That thing weighs 5,000, 6,000 pounds, right? If it would be too OP though, then A+ would be good. Same as the Model 3 Performance Edition, A and A+ would be good, and of course it can be raised all the way to S+. As for the Model S Plaid, stick it in S and raise it to S+. No need for this crazy electric car to be dominating too hard in lower tiers. Because of how cracked out the Roadster already is in real life, I think it would be a nice competitor to the Porsche Spider, the F1, and the other S+ cars in that range, so we'd keep that up there. The customization would still be there as in true Need for Speed fashion, and this would also bring in the electric vehicle crowd, who though might be small, still exist. Now the big one that everybody knows is going to be in the video, Toyota. This is more so on the Toyota brand themselves than the Need for Speed team, right? And we all know why. They don't want the cars in the game, something about how they don't want their brand being associated with street racing and all that, which is extremely ironic considering that, one, 99% of people do that in their cars anyway if they have a sports version of it, and two, that street racing narrative is what had them blow up in the first place. We all miss the Supra in our garages, but what about the less popular Camry or even the Tacoma? With the trucks that are in this game, there is no excuse. If Toyota allows their brand to be in the game, they should have that truck alongside the Raptor and the Colorado. As for the Camry, people may think this car is not a beast, but it truly is, especially with the option of engine swaps that is currently in the game. Now, if it is front wheel drive, that might be a little tricky for some to master, but it will be worth it. Imagine a Camry in a race against Lamborghinis and Ferraris. That would be a whole new feeling. Imagine beating them in a family sedan. I feel like I shouldn't have to go into detail for the Supra, considering everyone wants a Supra for their own reasons, so we will leave it at that. The tiers for Supra and Camry should definitely be A and be able to raise up all the way to S+. Remember, just because a car can go to S+ doesn't automatically mean it will be able to compete in that tier. The engine swaps for these cars allow for these things to happen, and that's great. The Tacoma should start in B. Just because of it being a truck, slow and big, it doesn't really need to be in a higher tier, especially since it is, like I said, a truck. Toyota being introduced back into the game will raise player counts just by itself because it's such a taboo subject. If this brand comes back, NFS is looking bright. Another big one, last but not least, Koenigsegg. People have a bad taste in their mouth because of the Regera, but just like the Tesla, I think it would be amazing if there were more like it. I'm also willing to say that the main reason people don't like the Regera is because it's the only thing up at the top, obviously besides the new Lotus, but we don't count that, right? Imagine if it was the Regera, but also its brothers and sisters. The Agera, the One, and Jesco. Would you guys be happy? Because I would. Each one of these cars is a well-known monster in their own right, and it was a crime that the only one that made the cut was the Regera. 200 plus miles per hour and crazy amounts of horsepower for each and every single one of them. It would seem like the Regera was with his family again if they were to be added. Imagine if you and everyone in your party had a different type of Koenigsegg, and you guys could have Koenigsegg only races. Not just the Regera, but everything else included. The excitement you guys would feel pushing each car down the straight to the highway, neck and neck and neck and neck, it would be unfathomable. An honorable mention is the Gamera, the 4-seater with over 1700 horsepower. I haven't seen this car be requested a lot, but I know a few people really admire it, so why not include it, right? But I would say 100% definitely we want the other 3 with the Regera before they think about adding something like that into the game. Of course, all of them would be in S Plus class, and no chance of having them being moved down. That would be insane, to say the least. If all those cars could somehow go into S, that would change the entire meta, the entire dynamic of S races, right? The customization would be slightly different to the Regera, but since they all have pretty much the same body style, it wouldn't be too off. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think of the cars I would like to see in the next Need for Speed. Hopefully the team at Criterion sees this video and takes a few notes, because it's not just me. A lot of the community would like to see cars like these as well. If you enjoyed, make sure to go ahead and drop a like and subscribe. If you feel like I missed anything, remember, this is a part 1, and I'll happily make a part 2 with your guys' recommendations. I will see y'all in the next video.